Today I'm going to show you how to make one of these cute mini accordion books that you can doodle, write, paint, collage, or do whatever you'd like in. First, let's review the materials that you received. You had 3 chipboard pieces, 2 large ones and 1 thin one, 2 pattern pieces of paper for the covers, a piece of gaffer tape or velvet paper for the spine, and a really long piece of watercolor paper that will be the insert of the book. You will also need a pair of scissors, some type of glue, and then something to write in your book with after. To make the covers, you will only need the 2 large pieces of chipboard and the pattern paper, and you can move everything else aside. You're going to get whatever adhesive you choose, and you're going to put a nice thin layer on one of the pieces of the chipboard. It doesn't matter which side you use because they will both get covered up by some type of paper. You want this layer to be really smooth and thin so it doesn't make bubbles on the pattern paper. You can just make this really thin, even throughout. And you're going to get a piece of pattern paper and flip it over to the non-patterned side. You're going to want to make sure that this long edge is flush with the edge of your pattern paper, and that the top and the bottom also have an even amount of space. Then you'll hold it down for a few seconds so that it begins to dry. Next, we're going to need scissors to cut the edges to be able to fold this on top of the cover. So with scissors, you're going to cut a triangle, leaving a very small gap right about here. You'll do that to both sides. So now we have 3 flaps that we need to add glue to so that we can fold over onto the chipboard. Here you'll need to hold it for a few seconds, and if some of the glue oozes, it's okay, just wipe it off. So my edge here was kind of pointy. I'm going to fold it in and then flip that extra piece of paper over. Hold the flap down a few seconds and then do the same thing for the last flap. Fold this little corner in and fold down. We'll need to repeat the same process for the other side of the cover. Here I'm double checking the pattern work of my paper. This is going to be the opposite side. So I want the gold to appear on the bottom of both. So I'm going to flip my paper over so that the pattern matches. If you do not care, you don't have to do that. So these are going to be opposite sides. And I'm going to repeat the process by cutting a triangle. Then adding glue to fold the flaps down. So we just want to press down all the flaps, make sure they're nice and firm, glued down so that they do not move. Next, we're going to need the piece of either gaffer tape or this is some adhesive. We're now going to assemble the pieces together. So you're going to need your piece of velvet paper and you're going to remove the backing. You place this down in the center, and now you'll need that tiny piece of chipboard that's long and skinny, and you're going to place it in the middle of your adhesive paper, and you're going to press down to kind of glue it in place. So now you're going to get your two covers, and the key here is to leave a gap that's about 1/8 of an inch. That gap is going to help our book be able to fold neatly. So you're going to press down to glue them in place, and then with the extra pieces you're just going to fold the flaps in. Right now we have the pieces of the chipboard showing, but that's okay because they will get covered with the drawing paper insert. So we can move this aside for now, and you're going to want to get your long piece of watercolor paper. Right now your paper is folded into 4 large sections, and we're going to have to fold each of these larger sections down into 4 smaller ones. At this point, it will also be helpful if you have something like a pen to help you make these edges nice and crisp. So like I said, there are 4 sections. We're going to get the first one, and you're going to fold it in half. Use a pen to crease the edge. So now this large section has 2 smaller ones, and we will make 2 additional smaller ones in each one by folding the larger sections in half. This one's a little bit trickier. But now you should have 4 sections out of this one long piece. We're going to repeat the process for the remaining 3 sections. The inside parts are a little bit trickier because you have all this excess paper to move around. It's still possible. So now we have a lot more sections, and we're going to fold our paper front to back in accordion style until we folded the whole thing, and I'm kind of just squeezing it down, trying to make sure everything is as even as possible. You can go ahead and glue the pages into the book, but I find it easier to first create my drawings first and then glue it last. So that's what I'm going to show you. So at this point, you're going to want to pause and create the drawings on the inside of the book, but you also just need to remember that the first 2 pages are going to face each other, the next 2 will face each other, and so on. So you're going to want to think of it as an actual book where the pages face each other when you're thinking of what to draw in your book. So you can use the brainstorming sheet, think of an idea, transfer it to your book, and then come back for the next step. So now that you've created your illustration, it is time to glue it into the book. We're only going to apply glue to the back of the first page. You're going to want to make sure that there's an equal amount of space along the top, the edge, and the bottom. And then just hold it down with your fingers so that it begins to glue in place. Now we're going to add glue to the last page, the back of the last page, so that it glues to the back cover. At this point, you can hold your book down for a few minutes, or just get a heavier, larger book and weigh it down to glue your whole book in place. I hope you've enjoyed making the mini book, and I'd love to see what you created.